Something I like to do with all the guests that I bring on the show here is I like to ask them what their superpower is. So by superpower, I mean, like, what is that thing that you think that you are just a rock star at? Kind of like a pump up moment, a brag moment here. Like, what do you think your superpower would be?
I think my superpower is my ability to speak the same language as any other person. Now, I can't speak a bunch of different languages. I don't mean languages like Spanish or Russian or anything like that. But what I mean is I can empathize with anybody, and I can understand exactly what they're going through. I can feel what they're feeling to a point where I can then take what I know and be able to help them. Because there's some people who might have great information, they might have the solution, but if they don't know how to talk to somebody about it, then it's not going to be very helpful, or they're not going to know that you have something that can actually be helpful, or they might think that you're being too pushy or too aggressive or what have you. But I feel I have a great way to, number one, understand what a person might need help with, and really ask the right questions to try to get to try to understand it. I don't just like look at a person and know that. I have to do the research. But when I do the research, I can then understand how to present something in a way that's going to be helpful for them, and that allows me to build my business. That allows me to be a great parent. That allows me to do all these things that I think just maybe is a struggle for others, but that's something that I feel just comes natural to me. I think it's one of the reasons why when I think back to like high school, I had a couple of best friends, but I had like 20 different groups of people who I could have associated with. Like I could hang out with the nerds in the band room, right, and chill with them and talk nerdy music stuff. But then I'd go to the nerd crowd and talk like math and calculus with them, and it'd be super cool. And then I go to the other part of the lunch court, which were more of like the gangster, like hardcore, like maybe a little bit scary crew in the school. And I was able to fit in and like talk to them at their language and hang out with them too. So I think that is my superpower.
I like that. I was going to ask you, is it something that comes naturally, or is it something that was kind of like a learned skill? But you definitely answered that. I like that. That's something that I've struggled a lot with, like kind of stepping back and speaking that same language is something that I know I've struggled with myself, and it's something that I'm continuing to work on. But no, I definitely think that's a superpower.
It's hard to do because, and there was a book written about this. It was in Made to Stick by Chip and Dan Heath. There's a chapter there called The Curse of Knowledge. And the curse of knowledge is when you know something, it's impossible to know what it's like to not know that thing. And so by knowing the thing, it's going to be very difficult to teach somebody who doesn't know often, because we can't fully empathize with them. So that curse of knowledge is something we have to learn about and get over. And I think that this is why a lot of my online courses are some of the online courses that people like. One of my favorite testimonial for my online courses is, "Oh, Pat, your online courses are like the only ones I can ever finish." And I'm like, that makes me so happy, because that's my job. I want them to finish it. And typically online courses have a little bit lower of a retention rate or completion rate. But for ours, like, it's a very high rate. And I think it's because I can break things down, make it easy, speak the language that a person's trying to fight through to build something like a podcast, for example.
Yeah, definitely. I always think of like college professors, stuff like that. You sit in class and you're like, this professor knows their stuff, but you just can't follow along because they're way up here. That's exactly what I think about through all that.
And that's actually a great analogy, because when we want to build businesses, right, we often feel like we have to be that person on the podium with all that knowledge and the expert, or else we're not qualified. But honestly, I would much rather learn from somebody who had just done the thing that I'm trying to learn too, who's just a couple steps ahead, versus like, the person who's way over there. Because, for my podcast, for example, I have a ton of people like Tim Ferriss, Gary Vaynerchuk, like huge names on my show. The shows where I have regular people on are the ones that get more downloads, because they're more relatable, because those people are just a couple steps ahead. And that's what's so interesting to me. And that's why I think, in the world of podcasting, people are like, how do I get this celebrity on my show? I'm like, you don't need to. In fact, it's going to be more powerful if it's somebody just like your listener who goes through something. So hopefully this inspires you. If you've been like trying to start a business or be an entrepreneur, like, you don't have to be the expert. You just have to be like a few steps ahead, because you'd probably be more relatable, to be honest. And that's your advantage there too.